All right, recording on this computer. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to fork it over to my personal GitHub. So I'm in Mike Platoon, new site 3. I'm going to fork it over to Tom Preet's GitHub. And then I'm going to clone it down once I actually. All right, there it's Tom Preet, new site 3. I'm going to git clone it. I did update the package.json file last night or yesterday afternoon to use updated packages because I was running into a bunch of errors. So I'm going to git clone Tom Preet, new site 3. I'm going to list it out. There's my new site 3. I'm going to cd into new site 3 and then open this into a new VS Code window. All right. So let's take a look at what this says. So high-level objectives, create a JavaScript module that handles retrieving data or article data from an API using fetch. So we're going to be using that at some point in the future. Integrate the module above into the new site app using React component lifecycle methods and the use effect hook. So we'll cover both of those, like an intro to those, and then slightly refactor app.nav or app.nav and the article details components. So initial setup, again, you have a choice to either use the solution coded provided in this repo or to copy over your own code from the 2 previous new site challenges. If you choose to use your own code, the files you want to copy to this new code base are app.js, components, or article.js, article list, article teaser, app.nav, homepage, and article page. Once you've copied over these files, do npm install to install the packages, and then run npm start. Does anybody have a preference of whether or not to use the code that's provided, or should I copy over new site 2?
Probably be easier to go with the code that's provided, maybe.
Oh, damn it. Fine. Let's just open it up. I just kind of look at it, pages. So we have a functional solution, 4.4, but this doesn't have any cool CSS.
Just like mine.
I'm going to copy over mine. Let's see. So new site. Whoop. So source. Whoop. So yeah, I'm just going to copy over source. So would it say app.js? App.js. Article list. Components. Article list. Article list, article teaser, and then we'll debug it once we actually install everything. App.nav. React Bootstrap. App.nav, and then the home page and article page, or yeah. All right, pages, article page. Article page, and then the home page. Okay, cool. At the very end, do npm install. Tim Gavin, what does npm install do? Charlie, what does npm install do?
That installs npm in your virtual environment.
So npm install, say that again.
And it installs it in your virtual environment.
Installs what in my virtual environment? We're not working in a virtual environment in React.
Oh, did it install Node?
So when I run npm install in new site, so I'm looking here. It looks inside your package.json file right here, and it installs all of the dependency packages like Bootstrap, compression, concurrently, installs all of these. So it installs React Bootstrap. Yeah. Oh no, it's not updated. Hold on a second. I'm going to change something real quick because I'm going to get a bunch of errors. And I will change this in the actual. Do I have anything else? I think that's it. Cool. If I run into errors, I'll be able to fix it. Or we can debug it. All right. So npm install. So don't worry about all the warnings. See, it says like, hey, the loopback boot, which is this. It says please upgrade to version 3 point whatever. We're currently on 2.27, but everything should still be working. Does anybody have any questions about React, about npm install, or anything? No questions? All right. Well, that's installing. We can go over here. All right, once we do run npm start, it says, so far the data that drives our news site has been contained within a static JSON file. So we have a news.json file. But now we're actually going to be connecting our web app to another service or another API that's already built into News Site 3. And we're going to go to that API to get different values or different data, article data. So it's still installing. So we'll run through all of this. All right, so I'm going to clear that. So inside of this API directory, don't worry about what's in here. It's just essentially a node server that is going to be executing our, essentially simulating a third-party API. So in our source, so I'm going to do npm run start or npm start. See if I get any errors, which I probably will. Where is it? Where is it coming up? All right, there it is. Come on. Starting development server. And it says browse your REST API at localhost. Cool. Oh, it looks like it's working. Let's just double check, making sure. Cool. We're not getting any errors in our console. That's always good. So here's my new site 2. I got opinion, world, national, politics, upshot, New York region. Everything's still working. When I click that, if I click there, doesn't look like that is working. Like it's going to the page, article 3. But my image isn't showing up, so I'll have to debug that. Cool. Any questions about new site? No? All right. I got some like warnings. So news is defined but never used on app.js, and then also line 8. Cool. So if I go down to app.js, I can say, so right here, these aren't being used. I can get rid of that. And then I also get this component is defined but never used. That's because I'm switching between class-based components and functional-based components. So I'm not going to really worry about that right now. All right. So a new site. So right now we're on localhost 3000, but we also have another server running on localhost 3001. That's where our API is located at to extract data. So if I click on that, I get, if I go to localhost 3001 API/articles, I get an array of article objects. And this is what we want to tap into in grabbing all the objects or all the articles. So if I come back to new site, so we can see here, the endpoint returns a list of articles. They can be filtered by any property through a request parameter. So like a filter key or filtered key. So I can add that to the end of the article. So if I go to localhost 3001 API articles $filter equals where the byline is by David Zucchino, I can get just an array of articles by David Zucchino. Or I can say, instead of byline, I can say, you know, title, oh, whoops. What was that? If I go back, if I say title, let's see if this works. I get the same thing. So wherever I can use byline, created at date, abstract, image, section, etc. So if I do like section, instead of, I can do like world, and I'll get all the world sections. Or all the articles that is associated with the world section. And lastly, I can just grab individual articles by going to articles / whatever article ID. So there's article 1, article 6. So with the ID of 6, 8, article 8. Questions about the API we're going to be using? Nope. All right. So now let's look into our actual React app. So in our source directory, we have our components. We have this config, which is a sections JSON file, which is new. We have our data, which is we should be familiar with that, but we're going to be, instead of using this news, this is where we were previously grabbing all of our articles. We're going to be deleting this and replacing it with that this API with these articles. Components, but now we have this API directory, and this is where we're actually going to build our APIs. So this is where we're actually going to be doing like the fetch and fetching to these routes and grabbing that data. All right. So the articles API JavaScript module primary function is to handle making requests to the API described in the previous section. So up here. So the module already contains a few functions that are stubbed out. Your job is to complete them. The functions are fetch article by ID, fetch article by section, returns a list of article whose section attribute matches the section argument. Okay. It returns a list of articles The filters argument is optional, so if no filters are provided, an array of all the articles are returned. So for this, you'll want to use a concept of fetch and async await. So you can read about async await, but we'll get to that shortly. So here are some examples. So this is kind of what we kind of showed earlier with a function get movies. Fetch returns a promise, then we do dot then, and then we return whatever this promise, whatever response we get from it. We do dot JSON to turn it into JavaScript, a JavaScript object, and then we do some other data or some other logic. All right, so here, all right, so let's go ahead and build out these APIs. All right, let's just open up this on the side. So where are we actually grabbing all of the news? So this is where we're passing in all the news articles. Okay. So in this articles API, if we're referencing, just use this as an example. Let's get movies. I'm just going to throw this down here. So up here, if we want to kind of emulate this example and put it for the fetch article by ID, how do we do this? So we can do, I guess, fetch and then the URL. So like fetch article 1 is the fetch article 1. So if I copy that over, but right here, we don't want to just hard code 1 in, we actually want to use the article ID. So we can make this do string interpolation. And here, like so. And then, so that's right there. And now we can do fetch. I guess we can do a dot then off of that. Then we take the response. And then we return the response.json. Oh. All right, and then at the very end, we can do, not quite sure actually, response.json. Then we can do, let's see. Oh. Like so. And then I guess dot then data return or just data maybe. And then we can catch at the very end. Let's just check this out. Let's see if this works. Console.error. Error. Not quite sure if this is going to work, but right here we do the response and we return response.json. And then here we have or just literally just returning the data afterwards. So that's where I'm doing data, data. All right. Oh, okay, we have this other thing here, async await. So there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can do fetch.then. We can do .then to chain things together, or we can use another way we can create asynchronous functions or synchronous functions to act like they are asynchronous. And that is this async await. But we'll get to that after we make sure that this is in fact working first. All right. Cool. You can run npm run test to see if the articles units are to test. Let's see if this actually works. npm run test.
Tom,
Yep.
I made a mistake on number 6, line number 6. After console, that log. Aren't you supposed to do log?
No, there's a bunch of different, there's console.err, there's console.table. There's a bunch of different things you can use, and console.err is one of them.
Okay, got it.
Yep. All right, looks like list everything out clear. I'm gonna actually start the server again. I'm actually just gonna skip. Whoop. So there's this fetch article. And before I actually go and build out like the all articles, I'm just gonna make sure this fetch article by ID works. So where does the fetch article by ID go into? So at this moment, there are two components that uses the article data, which is the home page and the article page. And these components we're importing news.json, which contains an array of articles passed into them. All right, let's look at the article page. So in the article page, we're using this news right here. But we don't want to use that anymore. We want to use either a lifecycle method or the use effect to execute this fetch article by ID method. So with that, let's see if this will work. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of this entire thing. Just delete that. Get rid of this news. Cool. So the first thing I need to do is import this fetch article by ID into this component. So I can say like import articles API from, do I have to go up a level? API, articles API. Okay. Now, I also need to, I'm gonna actually delete that and then go back a little bit. So before we had an article variable within our render method. But now, since we're going to get rid of this, where should we store our article variable? This is a class component. Where do we usually store data within a component?
State.
Exactly. So I can create some state. State equals article. And the initial value is null because I haven't actually received any article from an API yet. Now this is where we jump into lifecycle methods. Does anybody remember what lifecycle method executes right on its initial render?
Is construct?
That's not necessarily a lifecycle method. But you are correct. The constructor is just like the dunder init in the Python, which automatically executes. But specific to lifecycle methods.
Is it did mount or component did mount or something like?
Yep, did mount React. I just want to see if they bring up. Let's bring up this diagram. All right. So we'll show less common ones. So when the component initially mounts, Dylan, you're right, we have the constructor, but now the first time it mounts, it executes this component did mount method. So let's run that component. So I already filling it out. Component did mount. I can say just the console log mounted or article component mounted. I think I had somewhere else that it say that. I'm gonna get rid of this. Cool. So it looks like I get an error right now, article not defined, but let's go back to the React. If I refresh it, it says article is not defined, article page. That makes sense. So down here, I'm doing the spread operator on this article, but but that's because there's a variable here called article. If I wanted to access this article within the state, how do I access the article value in a class component in the state?
Is it this .state.article?
Yep, state.article. So looks like I'm not getting any errors anymore. I just get some suggestions and cool. So now let's actually go to an article. So nothing shows up because there's no article exists anymore because we're not using the built-in data in this JSON file. So this is where we're going to have to, now we can actually officially get rid of that. But we can see it says article component mounted. So it automatically executed this. So in here, how do we know what article we want to visit or we want to display? Where on the screen can we, or not just the screen, where can we extract the specific article that we want to look at?
From the URL?
From the URL, exactly. So just like I was doing down here and declaring an article, I can say that article ID equals, how do I extract from the URL? Let's look at how we can do that. I'm going to console log this .props. Remember, props is always accessible inside of a class component. So I'm running this .props and I'm console logging it. So if I refresh it, here's my props. If I open it up, I get this thing called history. Looks like we have all this history, has all these different functions, replace, push. Okay, that's not there. Location maybe. So location.pathname. If we really wanted to, we can create a function that parses through the string that extracts the last two values or the last values from it to get the number or the ID. We also have match. So in match, we have is exact true. And we also have another value called params, which is this article ID, which is a string of 13. And this article ID, if we go back to the app.js, that's what this is. That's what's coming through there, is the article ID. If I called this something else, it might break. It's this value now. But we got the article ID. So looks like we have this .props.match.params.article ID. Let's see if we can extract that. Where am I at? So article page, this .props. Whoop, what's going on? .match. Was it params. .article ID. So if I console log that, if I refresh it, there I've got 13 right there. That's being extracted from there. Very cool. So now it's a let article ID equals this dot props dot match dot params. Now I can use this articles API. So I can do, hey, I can run a try catch. So it's going to try to execute this code. If it doesn't, it's going to catch some errors or error. Console.error. Again, this is not a .then. This is a try catch. It's totally different. Error. Fetching data. So in here, I can say article API dot fetch articles by ID, which is up here. I'm going to split the screen just so you can see. So fetch articles by ID. All right. And what I want to do is pass in this ID. So article ID. And let's see what I can do. The first thing I want to do, I want to make this asynchronous. So I just want to see if this works. So I've got a catch. Okay. Now I want to say maybe .then. I can do response, which is actually the article. And I'm just going to console log the article. See if this works. Nope, I'll get an error. Unexpected catch, articles. Is there an error somewhere? So try fetch articles by ID. Is this even working? I can console log over here. See if that's even showing up. All right, nope. Uncall mod build index. Don't know what that means. Okay. So it's not even getting here before it throws an error.
Is it failing on the import statement, Tom?
Oh, what the hell? Thank you. That's stupid. I don't know why that's up there. So let's see if that works. All right, so I'm not getting any errors. It says error fetching data typer cannot read property .then of undefined and index.js. So this articles API line 2, so that's working. Let's see if this. So something's going on here. Fetching data type error.
It's because you have an empty function on line 10.
Empty function on line 10. Right here?
All right. Oh, is that not an empty function on line?
Show me. Let's see. Response. I'm going to see something here for a second. See if this is even work.
Do you need a return statement in the .then on the component did mount?
No, not yet. So fetch articles. I'm just going to do that for right now to see. Okay, cool. So we got that. So we have our response. I'm going to get back. And then in here, I just want to return I just want to make sure the data is in fact coming through. And I just want to make sure that this function is working. All right, cool. So we have our article right there. So then in here, we need to do some stuff. So try return articles API. This is where I was getting an error, right? So it takes in an article, console log article. Error fetching cannot read property dot then of undefined. Whoops. So let's change. I'm going to try to do async await. So async, I'm able to turn functions into asynchronous code. So I can use async. So I say, hey, turn this component in mount, turn functions or different logic inside of here into asynchronous code. So I can say, hey, let response equals articles API, fetch articles by ID, article ID. And then before this, I want to prepend the await keyword. So this is saying, hey, make this function asynchronous. Anytime I see an await keyword in front of it, execute this code, and then wait to execute other code after I get a response back. So I can say, hey, let data equals response dot JSON. And then, whoop, let's see if this is working. I was looking at the other thing. Whoops. Hold on a second. Why isn't this working? Fetch articles by ID. Console log dot response. So I'm not getting any errors. So the page 15, not getting anything back from that. Wait. JSON, I might get an error doing that. Yep, can't read property JSON of undefined. So I'm returning the data here. Let data equals console log data. So article page 15, await. And then, why isn't this working?
How are we grabbing article ID again?
From right here, the props.match.params. I'm going to change some of this so I know it works. So with my fetch article ID, I literally just walk through this code just to see if it works. Response.json is not a function. There we go. So let's walk through the code. So in the fetch article by ID, I just hard coded this URL, which is the API articles, because I'm going to be using this a lot. So in the fetch article by ID, I'm using the async await, which is turning this into an asynchronous function. So I could say, hey, in this anonymous function, I could use the async keyword before I actually declare the function. So async. And then instead of using the dot then, attaching the dot then to all of the promises, I can use the await keyword. So it's going to say, hey, execute this and wait until this is done executing to move on to the next await. So it's saying, so it's literally the same thing as I was doing the dot thens, but it's just using these 3 lines in the await. So once this is done executing, then move on to this line of code, and then finally just return the data. And then in the article page, I'm making this an async await format as well. Again, I'm just grabbing the ID from the URL, and then I'm doing a try catch. And I'm saying, hey, articles.fetch article by ID. Then grab the article and then set the state to that article. I'm adding it there.
What was breaking the code, and why do we use async and await instead?
I don't specifically know off the top of my head why that was breaking initially. It should have been working based off of the other code I have. But I can go back to it and try to debug it once. I just don't want to spend all this time debugging. But yeah. What questions do you have about async await versus the dot then? I guess I can get rid of that.
Is this something we're going to be doing for the next several days?
Yes, except it's pretty much today and tomorrow.
I mean, and then we're not going to do it anymore, or and then.
Oh no, you're going to be using this fetch a lot going forward.
Got it. Just want to make sure I'm going to have plenty of reps.
Yes, definitely will be.
Thanks.
So when we get to this part in the assignment, should we try to use async await, or should we try to use then?
I would try to use both of them. See how dot then works, and then refactor it to use async await. Just to see how they both compare. Async await's more new. It's newer, and it's kind of the way things are going moving forward, just because you can pretty much make any function an asynchronous function. All right. So if I go down back here, refresh it, I get, oh, what it says, EL, that's not the right, is it? So is that 15? Oh yeah, this is still the old data. Next, let's try to do, so we have the article page working and the articles API, fetch article by ID working. Now let's move on to the home page. And in here, we're passing in articles right there as a prop in the article list. I'm gonna comment something out. But now let's actually utilize the fetch all articles. So in here, we're gonna be also using instead of this news.json, we're going to actually be using this componented mount. Like so. So if I go back and go to the home page, we have this mounted that's right here. And then here we actually want to create this fetch articles API function. But remember, this also has the ability to add filters. So I can say, you know, I'm going to do a try catch again. Try catch, error, console.error, error. And in here, whoop. Oh, I think I knew what was going on. We can do a couple of things. We can do this we can use async await here, or we can use the .then. Does anybody have a preference?
Could we see the dot then, since
Yeah.
it didn't work
Yeah.
for the last?
Let's see how this will work. So I need to fetch. Again, I'm going to use the URL. So I'm going to use some string interpolation in here to account for the filters. So if there are filters, so if filters does not equal null, I'm going to add the value of the filters there. Otherwise, it's just going to be an empty string. Why is that up there? All right, and then I can do .then, but come down to the other line, .then. Res stands for response, then res.json. And I can do .then, the data, and I can return the data. At the very end, I can do catch, error, console.error, error. I think I've got something missing here. So what am I missing? Console.error.
Does it need to be dot catch?
Oh, yep. Thank you. Cool. So let's see this. See if I can get this one to work. So I'm just gonna, before I do any try catches, I'm just gonna import just like I did in, why is that coming up here? Oh. So I'm gonna import articles API from, go up a level, API / articles API. And then in here, let's see if this works. I think I might know. I'm gonna articles API dot fetch articles. So like fetch all the articles, execute that. Then I'm going to grab all the articles. And this is where I was running into issues before. Articles. There we go. Then of undefined. Say return. Okay. So the issue is I wasn't returning the fetch inside of the fetch articles, or I'm sorry, inside the fetch articles by ID. So if I wanted to do that, I would just return fetch and then just do the .then like I was before. So I needed to actually return the fetch. So if I go back and refresh, fetch articles, .then, I'm getting the response back, which is this data. So if I console log this data, it would literally just be an array return console.log data. If I wanted to do that, it'll display all 40 articles, an array of 40 articles inside the articles API. So that's what I'm actually getting back right here. So it's an array of 40 articles. And here I can do this dot set state articles. And then down here, where I'm passing in the article list, instead of passing in the news from the news.json file, what should I be passing in here? Anybody?
This dot state dot articles.
Yep, this dot state dot articles. So right here, looks like we're getting an issue. So articles dot map. So get all teasers. Where is that? So an articles list. So let's kind of keep debugging. So if I come up here, components, article list. Looks like articles is, so cannot read property map of null. So does anybody know why that is?
Is that because articles is currently set to null?
So initially articles is set to null. So list.props, let's see. That probably could be it. So this.state.articles. So can't map null. So the initial first time it renders comes into here. This.date.articles is null. Comes in an article list. Is it article list? Yeah, article list. This.props, destructuring articles from this.props and passing it into here. So initially it's null. So let's actually console log articles, or let's just this.props. Am I console logging anywhere else? In the home page, get rid of that. So initially it's null, and it's null there as well. Let's see something. Console log. All right, articles. All right. Why is that the case? It's not even article list. 23. So let's just do some conditional rendering in here. I'm going to say articles. Just this stuff. Oh, I know why. The articles, this stuff props. Articles is initially null.
Could you set it as an empty list first instead of null?
Yeah, let's do that. Or in here, I can just do, so if I set it to an empty list, let's see what happens. There we go. That works. Or I can do some conditional rendering in here. I can do this dot state dot articles. So if that exists, And then I can also do that. Oh, that didn't work.
You have a typo in articles.
Thank you. There we go. If I click on one, there we have article 1, article 2, article 3, etc. So article list, I can get rid of that. All right, let's see if this is working. So everything's working. We have component lifecycle methods. You can use the try except in here as well. You can use the await as well. So you can convert this into an async await. Let articles equals await. And then I don't know if you can set this dot set state to, I guess you can. So this dot set state, let's see if this works. I haven't tried this one before, but let's see if it works. Still works. So a little bit cleaner, a little less code with using the dot then, but it still has the same outcome. What questions do you have about the component did mount lifecycle and the fetch article by ID API, and then the fetch articles API?
I have a question about where you placed your async word, like on line 10, you did it in front of the function, but on the articles API.js, you did it before the argument.
So this syntax is the same. Since this is an anonymous, it's done via an arrow function. You have to put it in front of the arrow function.
Got it.
I could create this as a normal like function. I think it's A's. Where is that going? Fetch article by ID. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if it's done there or done there. I don't think it's there. I think it's like that. I think that's the same. Let's see if that works. Yeah.
Okay, so it's always right before the function declaration.
Correct. So if I go back, just keep things, arrow functions. There we go. All right. Let's see if we can translate the article page from a class-based component to a functional-based component. Actually, before we do that, let's take a 5-minute break and come back and we'll convert these to functional-based components and utilizing the use effect hook.